Hello and welcome to Great Deltan. Today we can finally make a start on actually making some progress with this layout by getting some track down. So as stated in the previous video, the baseboard is all now finished. I have a track plan in mind, I have a few boxes of track, I've got all my tools, some fish plates, track pins, I've got some card for the super elevation, so we can actually make a start today. I'm going to be starting with the two fast lines which will perimeter the outside of the baseboard. These aren't going to have any points, they're a lot simpler track plan than the inner two tracks, so I'll start with those, and then not only will that gauge more or less where the tracks will go for the inner lines, especially down here by the station where things aren't as in place as over by the race section, but it will also be nice to get a couple of trains running, and I'll be able to achieve that quicker by getting the two outer lines done first. So that's what we're going to start with. We'll begin over on this far side of the layout where this line is drawn for the semicircle, and then I'll work down this side, get all that laid, just down to the scenic section, and then I shall do the station as well after that, and then we will connect it up down by the scenic break where it will be hidden if there's any sort of small anomalies in the track, if I need to connect it up. I shall be using concrete track throughout most of it. I have a couple of links to wooden sleeper track from the old layout which I managed to save just in case I need some extra legs down here. I've got 2.5 boxes which I hope should be a fair bit, but just if I need them I can use them on the scenic break when they're not going to be used. For the track spacing, I need to have the centres roughly 3 centimetres apart. That is a realistic spacing, which I calculated via an image I found on Google of UK track spacing. This retaining wall column fits nicely between the tracks and puts the centres at about 3 centimetres apart. Now if you're using set track, this is hard to achieve because of the overhang on long coaches like Mark III's. These are some outer radius Pecco set track curves which I have, and as you can see there is quite a risk of interference with the overhang on the coaches. Now this is just an outer radius and they're just about clear, so I can imagine on any smaller radius than that you're going to have a bit of fouling on the coaches as they go past. Fortunately for me, I'm using all Pecco flexi track so I can achieve realistic spacing, which is quite nice. So we're going to start off with this area. There's not a great deal I can show you about track laying, which you probably don't already know or can't learn from another YouTube video. I will quickly go over how I achieve the super elevation though, as that's something that not every modeller tries to achieve. Okay, so I've just laid these first two pieces of track to show you how I'm going to achieve the super elevation. You've noticed that I've only put the track pins in halfway. I don't push them all the way in until the piece of card are in. So what I can do is slide the rails up the track pins so they're sitting off the deck a bit, all the way. And then we have our gap to put the card in, which will allow us to create that angle for the super elevation. I think I'm just using 0.5mm card thickness. I could use thicker, but I like to double it up, and then as the curves ease into straights, we can just use the single pieces of card to then make the cant of the track a bit shallower. So I can just slide these in, and being careful with my breath not to blow them out as they're not stuck in. I won't stick them in because there's always room for adjustment then. I can let the compression of the track pins just keep them in place when the track is then pushed down again. Might be useful to have a scalpel or something just to reach between the sleepers and straighten them up. And then once that card is in, I can just push the track back down, and we've already got our angle, but then that'll be more secure when I come to push the track pins in fully. I don't push them in until I've made a good way round, because the next piece of track will need elevation, and then I'm always going to need some room to slip the card in. So I'll only do one small section at a time and then move on to the next. So now I can push those track pins down, and then we can move on to the next section. So what I'll do is I'll probably get the semicircle done, and then I'll come back to you and see how it looks. Right, just quickly, I am currently laying track in about 4 or 5 degrees, which obviously means this track is pretty much at its shortest in terms of expansion. The ideal temperature for laying track is probably about 25 to 30 degrees, as the temperature increases the length of the track due to the expansion of the metal. So to accommodate this for when summer hits, I've left some expansion gaps where the fish plates are of about 1 or 2 mil. Hopefully this will stop the track from buckling and trying to escape from its chairs, and it will ensure smooth running. I've taken out some of the card down here, as this area is going to be hidden by a tunnel, so there's no point taking the extra effort to put the card in and wasting time and materials on something that's not going to be seen. So that's what you saw me doing in the video there. But other than that, things are going quite well. I've just got these test coaches for sort of see how it looks, make sure the cart's at a good angle. And yeah, things are going well. I'm at a stopping point now for tonight because I'm on day shift this week, so I do have to be up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's getting towards 10 o'clock at night. So I'll do a couple of hours a night this week, and hopefully we can gradually work our way round to the bottom there, and then we'll see how it looks when that's done. But for now, I'm stopping, and I will join you again when this section of track is finished. Right, progress is sure but a little bit slow, as obviously we're super elevating the track and having difficulty pushing the pins into the wood. I did read that plywood was easier than MDF for pushing in track pins. Obviously that is a load of codswallop, because I keep bending them, as you can tell by the numerous amount of dead pins littered around the layout. It's taken me 3 or 4 pins to get sort of one hole sometimes, but we're getting there. I've got to the point now where the tracks will turn right into this countryside cutting. This part I've not planned out how I'm going to do, so I'll just do that as I go. But the bridge over the motorway is done. We've got our first S-bend, and then we've got most of our U-turn all finished. I'm trying to see if I can pick up the angle of the super elevation. Yeah, you can sort of see how that looks. So yeah, it does look quite good, and it's worth doing, but it just takes a very long time to do. So I'll finish up on this corner next, That'll take us round to the scenic break, and then we can start on this side by the station. So yeah, I'll join you when I've completed to this point and then just about to start over here. Right, so it's been a couple of days now, and this is the stage we're at. We are down the embankment and all the way around into the cutting, and then I've laid some track over here, and we're now at the point where we can start laying on the station side, and that'll be the final part. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep cutting like this, whether I might expand it into the corner a little bit more. We'll see how it looks when the inner tracks are in, and then if I need to separate the tracks a bit more, have a bit more countryside in between them, then we can do that. I've got a couple of my new bits of stock set up on the layout, just because I like to see what it looks like. This is my new, well, it's not new, it's second hand, but this is new to me. It's a Intercity logo hold set with a DVT on the back, which is quite hard to find. And then we've got this lovely executive Intercity tray with 9 coaches and an 86 on the front there, which again isn't too easy to find. I've got the whole set on Facebook and I really do like it. It's a bit out of era for me, it's quite sort of before the time I model, but some things you just can't resist, so I bought that. So we'll get on with this tonight. I'm on my late night before I start my night shift, so I've got about 4 or 5 hours in the garage tonight, so hopefully by the end of tonight I can have 2 tracks sort of running if I get this bit laid, get some dropper wires put in, and hopefully we can get some trains on the layout. So cue the generic background music and let's get going. Okay, so forgive the mess, but we now have 2 complete running loops. The section through the station is done with a slight cant to the track, as it is on a very, very broad curve, as you can see. At this point, most modelers would test the trains. So that's exactly what I've been doing. I've just been having a little run around to make sure that I'm happy with the angles, happy with all the track lays, and just to make sure there's no running issues. So that's all gone well. I've just added in these droppers here for some power to the track, and I'm currently relying on the conductivity of the fish plates to provide power to the trains. So I'll give you some running shots in a sec, and then what I'll do is I'll do the dropper wires for the outside 2 tracks, as I'm a bit fed up of track laying at the minute. As you can tell by this huge pile of dead pins, it's been a bit of a task to get all the track pins in. So I'll get the dropper wires done and then we can move on to the inner 2 tracks, but first we'll just have a bit of a play, as it's been about 3 months since I've actually run any trains. Any of my stock hasn't had much exercise, and it's nice to get them out for once. So I've got the Z21 here, got my Intercity logo hold set and my East Midlands 125. So let's have a bit of a run. So just those few little running shots, it's quite exciting to see what this layout could potentially be and how I can create the scenery to create some quite realistic angles. So for the rest of the night I'm going to get on with some dropper wires. They're not particularly fun to do, but they do need doing. And then probably after my next set of days on, I'll get on with some more track laying for the inner 2 tracks. And then there'll be a few things to do before I can start adding scenery. Like sleepers need to go in all the gaps. Obviously dropper wires, I need to put some point motors in for the points I'll be doing. And then the track will probably just need a bit of a clean as it's been sitting idle for quite a while. And then I need a good old hoover. So yeah, plenty to get on with. So cue the background music again. And then, yes, we'll get on with some track laying as and when I can. Right, welcome back. This is the stage I'm at. I've got the inner loops now completely laid. The only thing I've got left to do in terms of track laying is the bay platforms over here. The reason I've not done them is because I'm short of the point that I need. I didn't video any of this section because I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted the points laid out. I've collected a few points over the last few months, just every time I go to the model shop I get a couple of points as I wasn't sure how I wanted it. So I have a need for one left hand point which I'll have to get, and then I can finish the bay platforms, and then that's all the track laying done. The only jobs I need to do after that is the dropper wires for the inside, and then fill in all the sleeper gaps. They are still empty at the minute. Once we've done that, I'm pretty sure ready to start some scenery. So I'll give you a quick walk round of how it's looking. So as the tracks come into the platform, they start separate, but then they come a bit closer, and then we've got a platform here, platform here, platform here, and then there will be the 2 bay platforms over here as well. Out at the minute I've just laid out some of my new HSTs in full, which we have. I've got the fag packet, First Great Western Purple, Intercity Executive, and then Great North Eastern Railway. Yeah, that is a 9 coach set. So as we come down here, the tracks pretty much stay parallel. Obviously we've got the points there, so there'll be a bit straight where that's curved. But other than that, it's more or less parallel. We go over the double bridge, and then they will go around to the right where they come into the banked curve. And then this is where the tunnel will start to hide this large banked curve. As they come around, they will begin to come together as they emerge from the tunnel, and then they'll turn into this big trunk of a main line, which is more or less the West Coast main line. That's the new 321 there, which is sitting still at the minute because it's probably the best thing for it, as it doesn't seem to run very well. So as we come down the embankment and over the M1, the tracks again will start to split as they go into the cutting, and then that is where the scenic brake will be. And then I've got some of the drop wires, I've done all the dropper wires and the outer tracks, and then I just need doing on the inner. So it's a fairly simple track plan, but it's something that's suitable for me. So what I'll do now is I will get the bay platforms done as and when I have the parts. It's 5 in the morning now. I've been up all night on it before my night shift, so I'll be doing my set of 4 nights now. After that, I'll go to the model shop, get a point, and then we can lay the bay platforms, do the dropper wires, and then get some trains running before we start on the scenery. So that is where you'll see this point next, when we're all fully laid and running some trains. Okay, every single piece of track is now laid. I have put the bay platforms down and I've got all the point work in. It's not as neat and tidy as I'd like it to be. I've just made use of what points I had. There's probably a little bit of unnecessary track in there, but it looks okay. And then we've got the 2 bay platforms in to the appropriate length I wanted to fit my Wrexham and Shropshire set in, which is about 5 coaches and DVT and loco. So that's where the platform will end. So we had to get all my EMUs in there, and then the longer units like that. And then on these 2 inner slow lines, I'll be able to fit an 8-car London Midland 350 in there. And then on the outer lines will be the longest platforms with the 11-car Pendolino lengths. So yeah, every single track is now laid. I just need to finish off doing the dropper wires. It looks pretty good, to be honest. I'm satisfied with everything I've done. I relayed the corner over there to bring it outwards a bit, as it was a bit too it was just unnatural on the outer loop. So I've laid that and it's a nice curve now. And we've got all the track down here. I've got some dropper wires to do still, and then I've got to fill in all the gaps of the sleepers. So that'll take up the rest of the time on track laying. So with dropper wires, I hate doing them, so I try to take as many shortcuts as possible. So if I go over here to the station area, we've got a standard set of droppers here on this inner track, which just go down through the baseboard, soldered onto the rails, and then I've got them all connected here. Now with bits of track that aren't necessarily seen, such as in a tunnel or scenic brake, I'll do this. I'll just make the use of some copper tape. So I've got the rails there, which are attached to that copper tape, and then that then goes to the bus wire. Same with the outer one, and then I've got these links to bring them in, and vice versa, so we can do the inner tracks as well. And that's just a lot quicker than having to run 8 wires all the way down to here. It saves on cable as well. This copper tape stuff is a godsend. I would highly recommend it, especially when doing dropper wires which aren't necessarily seen. And then over here we've got a mixture of both of them, because this area here is going to be raised up a little bit, and that's quite a tall embankment. So what I can do is I can put some tape here, and then I can run all my droppers down to this, and then run these 2 tapes down to the bus wire. Again, saving on cable, and it's just a bit quicker, and it's just a bit more convenient because I hate doing dropper wires. So I think we've got about 20 or so bits of track to now wire up on the droppers, and then once that's done, I'll have a bit of a tidy up, get 4 trains on the track, have a bit of a running session, and obviously we'll do the sleepers, and that'll be the conclusion of track laying. So let's get that done. Okay, so all the dropper wires are done, and all of the sleepers have been pushed in the gaps, so we're more or less finished. However, I made a mistake when laying the points, as I've had to take these two left-hand turnouts out because they're actually electrified points, as you can tell by the there's no gap in the rails there, they're connected. So when I turned on the DR5000 it tripped out straight away. So I've got to get two install frog points and then I can relay that section of track and then we'll be finished. But for now I'll stop the video here. I will lay those when I've got them, and then I'll put some running shots up to finish this video, but I won't show me relaying the track. I've got a couple of HSTs on at the minute, just on the outer loops. We've got my Grand Central and my new Great North Eastern Railway, and the cap again. Goodness sake. Anywho, I've got these two trains laid out as well for when I have it in the tracks running. This is my DRS 68. Along with my Tesco train and my Wrexham and Shropshire set, which I've got recently. So when I've got all the tracks working, it'll be nice to run all that. I'll leave some running shots at the end of this video, and then that's all the track laying finished, and we can move on to the actual scenery. We'll start with track details, as I like to do everything nice and properly on this layout, rather than coming back to revisit areas that haven't got as much detail on, like I did with the last layout. So that'll be all for today. Thank you for watching. As I said, I'll leave you with some running shots once I've got those points relayed, and then we'll be moving on to track details, assuming the cap doesn't knock any trains off. So thanks for watching, and bye-bye.